What is good, everybody? Welcome to Stats and Cohn on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He's Grant Cohn. What's going on, sir?
I'm just drinking my coffee here in my house. Really looking forward to talking to you about football, man. Let's do it.
It's so weird. You're sitting there drinking your coffee. I just finished my lunch.
That's the thing about time zones. It's a big country. You're on one coast. I'm on the other coast. It's a whole different world. And yet we're talking to each other. And that's the beauty of technology. What a world we live in. What a time to be alive.
What a time for the 49ers. I was thinking about this today, Grant. Like, the eyes of the entire NFL world are going to be on Niners Eagles this weekend. Like, everybody, every fan, regardless of who you root for, everyone is paying attention to that game. Whatever happens, that's the game that's leading all the shows on Monday morning. And that is a cool thing. And that is not always the case with the 49ers. And we remember the bad old days. And I just think we need to take a second before we get into the preview and all that stuff. That's pretty damn cool.
It is cool. And it's a marquee matchup. And it's like, you don't have to be ashamed of the Niners quarterback. Like when they put the graphic on the screen, it's not going to be Brock Purdy, right? It's going to be Jalen Hurts against Christian McCaffrey. It's how it always is. But still, in the past, it would put anyone but Jimmy Garoppolo up there. And it was like, hey, maybe the Niners can win in spite of this guy. And it was like, everyone knew he wasn't that much fun to watch anyway. So a Niners game on national television is like, yeah, man, you can appreciate aspects of their team, but like, you're going to have to watch Jimmy Garoppolo play a lot of football. And it's not the most enjoyable thing to do. And now, like, look, whether you think Brock Purdy's a lead or not, he's a lot of fun to watch. And this team is a lot of fun to watch. They're explosive on offense. They play great defense. I mean, this is the game.
They would put Jimmy Garoppolo on the graphic if he didn't have his helmet on. Because, Jimmy be looking good. But you're right. How many times did we go into big games like this saying, oh, the 49ers have the advantage everywhere but quarterback? And now we go into this game Sunday, and I'm not so sure. I think it's a draw, to be honest with you.
You think it's that close?
I do. Do you think, well, where do you stand on it? Let me ask you that.
I don't think it's going to be a tie game, even though it could be. I'm picking the Eagles. I picked the Eagles to win the NFC Championship game. I think the Eagles are a little bit better.
No, I mean
the Eagles
matchup.
Oh, the quarterback matchup? I'm sorry. I can see saying you prefer Purdy's skill set, but Hurts is so much more battle tested. And his skill set's pretty nice too. Like, he's not as good of a passer as Purdy, but overall, he's just as good, if not better, of like a player. And he has all this experience coming from behind that Purdy doesn't have. And he could get it this week. I think it just feels too soon to take Brock Purdy over someone like Jalen Hurts. Maybe in a bit, maybe soon.
I think that if Brock has a good performance against the Eagles and the Niners win, he can overtake Hurts in people's minds for MVP. I really do think that. And I think that he's going to have a good game, honestly, because I don't know if the Niners are going to be able to really run the ball that much against the Eagles. We know the Eagles' pass defense has had their problems. I think this is going to be a game where if the Niners win, it's going to be on the back of their quarterback, and it's going to have to be. And that's not something that we're used to saying in the Kyle Shanahan era.
That's kind of scary, though. It could be raining. Purdy didn't look good in the rain in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great pass rush. They seem like they try to, lead with the pass in the NFC Championship game. That didn't go well. The Eagles do give up a lot of yards, but the Niners are kind of a play-action passing team, and that doesn't work so well against the Eagles, especially if you're losing. So I'm a little curious to see how Kyle Shanahan adjusts his game plan. He was so defensive of his game plan in the NFC Championship game, but I think it's going to be different. And I'm curious to see if they can run the ball, because they're not a one-dimensional offense. If they just give up on running, they're not going to win. So you can't run a Jalen Carter or Jordan Davis in the middle, but they like to run outside anyway. They like to run to the left anyway. Can they, pin down Josh Sweat? Is he a good edge setter? I don't think so. So I think there's opportunities for them to run the ball. And if the Eagles start over pursuing to that outside left, they then cut it back. I mean, McCaffrey's really good. So I wouldn't necessarily just write off the Niners run game in this game. I think it's going to be critical.
I think it's going to be a game where your stars have to be your stars. And there's a ton on both sides. But the Niners, I feel like, and look, this could be my bias. I'm totally willing to admit it. But I feel like the Niners have guys like McCaffrey and Debo and Kittle that can make plays where you're like, you have no business making this play. Like, perfect example. Christian McCaffrey's touchdown run against the Eagles, where he's stopped in the backfield behind a pile of like 16 guys. And instead of reversing field and going all the way to the other side, he finds a path through that scrum and spins through a tackle at the goal line for a touchdown. Like, that's the kind of plays the Niners are going to have to make in this game if they're going to win it. And they can, but like I said, your stars are going to have to be stars.
Yeah, and again, I think the Eagles' run defense is vulnerable. It's tough against up the middle, but teams have been having so much success passing on the Eagles. They haven't been really going at this, but they gave up like 170-something rushing yards to the Bills, 160-something rushing yards to the Chiefs. There's opportunities here. And I do feel that while the Eagles are really stout up the middle, their edge guys are small. They're kind of finesse guys. I would say run at Hassan Reddick, but the Niners are just not strong on that side of the offensive line. It's not really what the right side is not their point of attack side. It's their cutback side, if that makes more sense. So, push Josh Sweat at the point of attack. Hit him. What they can do is bring Jawan Jennings over, Brandon Ayuk over, and have those pin down blocks where Jennings is really good at them. And then pull Trent Williams around. Those are the big plays for the Niners, and I think they're going to be available against the Eagles. And I'm still surprised they didn't do that early against the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. They might have won that game if they'd just been a little more conservative and stuck to their identity and run the freaking ball. Run the freaking ball. You got Christian McCaffrey.
My wife says Brock is more handsome than Jimmy Garoppolo, but then again, she's turned on by red zone efficiency. That's an interesting woman you got there, Joshua.
That is entirely too much information. Thank you, Joshua. I love you.
Yes. We do appreciate the comment, though, and we appreciate all our YouTube channel members. I know for the Gold Standard YouTube channel, if you want to become a member, it's less than $3 a month. Please do it. It's a great way to support the channel. You get custom emojis, you get membership badges, you get priority comment response, and to make Vish Kumaran happy, yes, if you become a YouTube channel member and you want me to follow you on X or Twitter or whatever, I will. No one has ever taken me up on that, by the way, but Vish gets mad when I don't throw it in there.
Shout out, Vish.
All right, let's get to this question because it's become a topic this week. Dosser007 watching on Twitch says, does fatigue play a factor in the game with the Niners having some extra rest? How big a deal do you think that is, Grant?
I think it's a factor for sure. I also think it's a factor that the Niners are going across the country and it's a 10 a.m. start for them. So maybe it evens out. But I mean, I'm trying the betting line keeps moving in the Niners' favor.
Yes.
It was 1.5, then it's 2.5, now it's 3. So these are factors that odds makers are taking into account. Yes, this is a big deal. The Eagles are coming off 2 really exhausting, grueling, long games that, they didn't put away in the third quarter like the Niners have been able to do. So if they have a little bit of an emotional letdown, if they're exhausted, you can see it coming. In fact, they'll probably use it as an excuse if they lose. Hey, we didn't need it. We were tired and we came off overtime game. So yeah, I think that's definitely a factor for sure.
If you are not watching on the stream, the Eagles defense has been on the field for 166 plays the last 2 weeks, more than an hour and 12 minutes of actual game time. That is a lot. Nick Bosa was on KMBR yesterday, and he was asked about that, and he was like, yeah, it can help you, but he specifically mentioned the flight that you mentioned, having to go back across the country. So, okay, I don't know how you
right because Bosa wants to be careful, right? He doesn't want to go up there and be like, "Yeah, man, we got all the advantages. We're gonna whoop this team." No,
your YouTube channel for you, Grant. Congratulations. Feel free to
thank you very much.
Join both channels. That's all I'm saying. Next comment here from Ben Meadow Ford. Zach Cunningham is out. He's their best linebacker. I think the linebackers specifically are going to be an area that Kyle Shanahan targets. He is going to go in. I think it could be a big Kittle game early. I think you're going to see CMC out of the backfield. I think you're going to see Kittle. I think you're going to see Debo on some short passes over the middle. That's where Kyle Shanahan is going to aim the microscope.
I'm curious to see how much it rains, how hard it rains, and how much Kyle Shanahan trusts Brock Purdy in the rain. Curious. Rain might not be a factor for Brock Purdy. I just felt like it was against Cleveland. He completed 44% of his passes in that game. I know Cleveland's good, but that felt like way out of character for Brock. And it seemed like if you go back and watch that game, his throws were all over the place. Like his ball placement was uncharacteristically bad. So I just want to know how he's going to do.
Well, and he dropped back to pass and the ball just literally slipped out of his hand. Like
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was dicey for sure. Yeah. You would know better than I, but I think you've said this, that they don't practice like practicing with a wet football, that Kyle doesn't do that?
I believe not, but we'll ask today, see what he says. I'll try to ask in a non-snarky way and see if I can get a non-snarky answer. I'm going to try my best. Kyle, I'm not criticizing you. I will later on the show, but today, right now, I just want to know.
Right. Do you do anything different to practice for playing in the rain?
Do you do anything different for practice and playing? And what he's going to say is, what should I do? Right?
What would you do? Dude.
I'm asking you, man. I'm not a coach. You're the best.
Right. Like, come
on. No one's going to ever keep you down.
Yes.
Kyle.
Going 80s on the program today. I like it. And if he doesn't, by the way, if Kyle doesn't, then Brock needs to after practice. Do the Peyton Manning, dunk the football in water and get some receivers and go throw it. Like, you have to, because it's been a problem. We saw it in the playoff game against the Seahawks early in that game. Brock was kind of scattershot. Like, it could just be a thing, and he's got to overcome that, because you can't have that on Sunday. You cannot win this game if Brock's going to be all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, if the game comes down to which quarterback throws the football better through the rain, I mean, Jalen Hurts has those big hands and Brock Purdy doesn't. And plus, we saw what Jalen Hurts looked like in the rain just a few days ago. He was great. It didn't affect him, especially when it mattered. So Purdy, I'm not saying it will affect you, but something else, another box you got to check.
Hurts was great in the second half of that game. In the first half, he threw for 33 yards. I was actually impressed by how made him hold the ball, and hopefully the Niners secondary can do that. Ben Semedo Ford says it's going to stop raining at 8 a.m. I hope it does.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And I'll say this too. I hope it stops raining at 8 a.m. because we don't want that field to be slick. We know what happens to the Eagles when the field gets wet. They get very upset. So I don't want any excuses, right? I want Brock to play the whole game. I want the field to be nice and dry. I want whatever happens in this game, we could say, yes, this team was better. There's no excuse, no stupid penalty, nothing to blame, nothing like that.
I'm glad. It sounds like Lane Johnson's going to play. That's big, because without him, I don't think the Eagles could win, because you could just put Bosa on that backup right tackle all day and go to work. But if he's out there, it seems like the real deal.
Great.
He's a big part of what they are.
I hate that they let him get away with that. That they let everybody
the false start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about, like, logically, it doesn't make sense, right? If you're an offensive lineman and you flinch, they throw a flag. But if you just actually start to pass block, that's totally okay.
Have they ever explained that? Has the league explained why they call it that way?
I don't know if they have. It's
like, as long as his foot doesn't hit the ground before the ball is snapped, he's fine. I don't understand that.
Yeah, to me, it's dumb.
Wow. Yeah.
But we'll see how that goes. What else did I want to get into today? I don't think that.
All that being said, if Colton McKivitz could master that, I think every Niner fan would be pretty happy.
Colton McKivitz could start 15 minutes before the play starts, and I don't know how much it would help him. But I think that the Niners pass rush could have some success in this game. The key is going to be, do they get past Jalen Hurts? Because if you go past a quarterback that can scramble, you're going to open up rush lanes, and he's going to be able to hurt you. Are the Niners going to stay disciplined? I thought they did an excellent job of that against Seattle on Thanksgiving, where they rushed as a unit. It wasn't like Bosa just beats his man and gets a sack. It was everybody pushes the line back, and then they just slowly collapse on top of you, and there's nowhere to go. That's what they need to do.
Absolutely. I agree. You never rush past this kind of a quarterback. That's the first, the defensive ends in particular. You do not rush past him, because as soon as you do, he's out of the pocket. And then the defensive tackles, it feels like, to me, you want them to be rushing at different levels. You don't want them both going all out for the quarterback. You want one guy sort of watching for the quarterback draw, the scramble up the middle. That you want like a controlled rusher. So to me, that's Armstead. He's the kind of guy, he's 6'8". He can see over whoever's blocking him. He can shed left, right. Have Hargrave go after the quarterback, have the two defensive ends go after the quarterback, but in a controlled way, and let Armstead be the guy who makes sure Hurts doesn't escape. If they do that, then you turn him into just a stationary pocket passer. He's not bad, but he's probably not going to beat you like that, right?
Oh,
it's not how he beats you.
You sound like Robbie Gould. Remember Robbie Gould said that after the Niners lost in the NFC Championship game? He told Trey Wingo, excuse me, if you make Jalen Hurts play quarterback, you can win. And a lot of people got mad about that. So what are you taking a page out of?
I didn't mean it like that. I'm just saying, like, him running is such a big part of what he does.
Yes.
And if you can, he's a dual threat. If you can just make him sort of one-dimensional, it's not where he's elite. he's elite because of the whole package. Pause.
This is the hardest part for me because the game is going to be you have to call such a different defense when you play the Eagles because it's basically like 1st and 9 every time they get the ball. Because if they are a yard away, they're going for it. They are going for it on 4th down. So it's almost like if it's 3rd and 10, it's not 3rd and 10. It's like 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 7 because if they're anywhere close, they're going for it, and it's freaking unstoppable. So 1st and 2nd down are going to be so stressful because you almost have to hold them to like no gain. It's going to be an incredibly stressful game for me to watch, and to me, I'm fascinated to see if Steve Wilks, how he calls the game to account for that.
Yeah, when a team is that committed to going for it on 4th down and that automatic on 4th and 1, 4th and almost 2, it changes everything. It makes them a very unconventional opponent because the way defensive coordinators work is they sort of have like a philosophy, 1st and 2nd down. We're gonna play zone. We're gonna do this. We're gonna have these kind of fronts. We're gonna be sound. We're gonna be gap sound. We're gonna have gap integrity. We want to be good in the run game. But on 3rd down, we're gonna get kind of saucy.
Yep.
We're going to get exotic. I'm going to have overload blitzes. I'm going to have 3 guys on one side, 1 guy over here, stunts, games. It's like, yeah, you can do that if you're going against Baker Mayfield and some regular ass team that's going to throw on 3rd and 7, but that's not what the Eagles do. Like if you start doing stuff like that on 3rd and 7, you can guarantee they're just going to hand the ball off to DeAndre Swift or call a quarterback draw and gash you. So really you have to think of 3rd down against them as 2nd down. There's no other team like it. And it doesn't mean they're going to beat you, but it's a big reason why they've won 27 of their last 29 games.
Anytime things get a little dicey, or maybe the Niners defense starts to get some momentum and the Eagles need kind of a stabilizing play, to me, they're going quarterback draw. I feel like they will rely on Jalen Hurts' legs when they need to just kind of get back to square one and sort of control things again, especially when the Eagles are in like the red zone or like right around that 20-yard distance. They are going quarterback draw at least once. They've done it multiple times. And I don't know who we put it on most to stop it. Do we put it on Hargrave? Do we put it on Fred and Dre Greenlaw? I'm not sure, but the Niners had damn well better be prepared for it.
Absolutely. Like that's their sort of knockout blow. You know how like the Deebo Samuel jet sweep or end around was kind of the Niners knockout blow for a while. That seems like what Jalen Hurts is. He leads them in touchdown rushes and 1st down rushes. Like DeAndre Swift is a really good runner. He has 4 rushing touchdowns this year. Hurts has 11. Like you know what I mean? Like you stand them side by side and you look at them and you don't even know football or you don't know them. You'd think, yeah, Swift is the quarterback and Hurts is the running back. Hurts is the most powerful. I mean, Cam Newton was powerful, but just 6'1", 225. He is built like not just any running back. Like he's built like freaking Jordan Mason. You understand? I really enjoy watching him play. He's very unique.
And if you want to see how strong Jalen Hurts was, go back to the NFC Championship game last year. Nick Bosa has him in the end zone for a safety. He is going to be tackled for a safety. And Jalen Hurts is so strong, he just pushes forward and gets out of the end zone. That's like Nick Bosa's not a weak guy. We've all seen his arms, but Jalen Hurts is incredible, especially like from the waist down. His friggin' legs are giant. What does he squat, like 800 pounds? Something like that. It's some ridiculous thing.
Something like that. Yeah. I can do that.
You could do that?
I could do that. Yeah, sure.
I don't think I could squat 8 pounds, but anyway.
So that you combine his particular skill set with that offensive line, and it's like just the left side alone. Like the Niners are very left side oriented. They're like, we just have to be strong at the point of attack on one side. Cool. You have Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel. Good. They have Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, and Jason Kelsey. That's overwhelming. It's so dominant. They get movement every time. Anytime you have Mailata and Dickerson blocking together, you get movement every time. And you get Jalen Hurts on top of that. It's why they are what they are. It's incredible. More teams don't try to replicate that. Or maybe they do. I don't know.
And they're so smart about it, too. That's what used to piss me off back in the day when the Niners would play the Seahawks, the Legion of Boom Seahawks. It was like, not only are they really good, not only can they smash you, but they're freaking smart, too. And the Eagles are the same way. You can see when they want to run that quarterback draw, Jason Kelsey will just read the defense and look, and he'll literally point left or right and tell Jalen Hurts which side to go to. and they do. And Kelsey will like turn and seal it off, and he'll get the block. It's incredibly like, I don't like when my opponent is physical and smart. That's not a good combination for me.
I feel like when you watch games too, when you're watching an offense work, you kind of feel like, okay, they're definitely passing here. You just kind of have a feeling. You never can say that with the Eagles. They're definitely passing here. They pass sort of when they feel like it. First and 10, second down. I mean, you never really know for sure. And it's often an RPO, and it's often sort of leveraging the run. And I mean, if you ever put Jalen Hurts in a straight drop back situation, same with Purdy, I don't know how good either one would be, but they're never in that situation because they're on the perfect team and the perfect scheme for them. And you got to give both of them credit for executing and winning like almost all the time.
Rich Mix says, Grant, you're picking the Eagles to win. Are you sure Debo didn't hit you in the head with that basketball? For people that don't know what Rich is talking about, could you explain?
Oh, yeah, this was a really momentous occasion. It was Monday in the locker room, and Debo was going to do an interview, and I was there, and he's right by the hoop in the locker room, and John Feliciano was like shooting jumpers, and Debo wanted to shoot one jumper just before the interview started, just because who wouldn't? You know what I'm saying? It's fun to shoot jumpers, and I was in between Feliciano and him, and Debo, who's quick and funny, said, hey, hit Grant with the ball. And he laughed. I laughed. People laughed. It was a funny thing to say. John Feliciano, to his credit, did not hit me with the ball. And I just thought it was a way for Debo Samuel to sort of like, have fun with someone, sort of build a rapport. Or maybe he wanted me to get hit by a ball. You never know. Maybe both. But I felt like it was a big moment in our relationship.
Was it a real ball or was it like a squishy Nerf ball?
No, it was a real basketball. I could have taken it. I would prefer not to get hit by the ball.
So wait, did Feliciano pass it to you and then you passed it to Debo?
No, somehow the ball got around me. It was like a magic ball, like a magic bullet. It went around. I don't know how. But shout out to Debo.
Debo was on with Kay Adams, and she brought up the comments from Hassan Reddick, who said, there was a lot of boo-hooing after the game. And Debo was just said, like, we'll see you Sunday. And Ayuk has kind of downplayed it, and Trent Williams has downplayed it. Good. Do you think there was an edict from Kyle, like, hey,
yes,
shut up and, don't talk about last year?
Yes, I do. Because I don't know. I don't know that necessarily brings out a more focused opponent in the Eagles. It just seems to me when you talk like that, it reveals that you're not as focused as you could be on the task at hand. And Hassan Reddick is the one talking this week. So let him make that mistake. Let the Eagles be that team that's not focused. I think Reddick made a mistake with that. And I think Debo and Ayuk made a mistake after the game. It's not 11 months ago. It wasn't a good look to go on a media circuit and make excuses and say, you should have won, we would have won. None of that. They should have said then what they're saying now. So, hey, at least they got it right. And it sounds like they're in the right headspace, and the Eagles might not be. So that's another advantage going for the 49ers right now. It's good to see that Debo and Brandon Ayuk get it, and Kyle as well. I'm assuming Kyle said enough.
Yeah, I'm assuming somebody told them, because you would think that somebody from the Niners, given how upset they were last year, somebody would have kind of said something or responded to Reddick in some way. I mean, hell, last week, there was a quote, right? Oh, Geno Smith is going to play on Thanksgiving. And Diamador Lenore quote tweeted it and said, so? Last week they were talking trash. Now, all of a sudden this week against a team that they feel like they were robbed against, they're not saying anything. Somebody in the Niners shut that down, and I agree with it.
Well, I mean, they had a 3-game losing streak, right? And during it, they were like, we just don't understand what's going on. Then they get out of it. And when they look in the rearview mirror, they say, we learned our lesson. We weren't really taking each game 100% seriously. We're looking ahead. It's like, okay, well, then you can't, if that's the lesson you learned, you can't turn around and start talking trash to the Eagles before the game starts. Like, that's the kind of stuff you were doing. They beat the Cowboys. Then they rubbed it in their faces with the T-shirt. Then Micah Parsons says, hey, that was disrespectful. Then Debo Samuel essentially said, hey, shut up. Then they went into Cleveland and disrespected the Browns before the game even started. Like, that's the kind of stuff you said you learned your lesson from. So keep your mouth shut. Let the Eagles run their mouths. Go into Philly, punch them in the mouth, make a statement that way. I think the Niners get it. Or they say they get it. They're acting like they get it.
It's going to be so much fun. You are going to get the locked-in, full-on version of the 49ers. I think you're going to get the Cowboys 49ers. That, to me, was the only game all year where they played their best for the entire game, and that's why they annihilated the Cowboys.
They have something to prove.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was not this like, well, we got a turnover, but we're not doing anything with it. Against the Cowboys, it was interception, touchdown, interception, touchdown, interception, touchdown. And that's why the game was such a blowout. Against the Jags, you know, they got a couple turnovers. I think they got 4, but they only scored on 2. They've only scored 3 times after 7 turnovers since the bye. So they are not cashing in on opportunities. I think this week they're going to be locked in, ready to go. We're going to see the best version of the 49ers.
I would agree. Jalen Hurts, look, how many times has Jalen Hurts fumbled this year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know how many he's lost. But yeah, 10 picks, 6 fumbles. He'll give you some opportunities. He holds the ball a long time. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be a game. I mean, last year the offense lost the game immediately. Game plan was terrible. The quarterback got hurt. Yeah, it was over. Now I want to see, like, can the offense not lose the game and can the defense win it? Because that's how the Niners have been winning. They've been winning with their defense. They added Chase Young. It's a defense team. Can they shut down this run and make Jalen Hurts look like the remedial passer Niner fans think he is? Let's see.
Kaylee Safari says, like Kyle says, the Niners need to play complementary football. Defensive line putting pressure will help the secondary. Purdy not turning the ball over. Moody making field goals in critical moments and closing the game early. Yeah, if you're the Niners, no lulls and no letting it. Like, you need to score every single damn time you get the ball, because that's got to be the goal for the Niners. The Eagles are awesome in close games. So for the Niners, it's got to be, well, guess what? You can't win a close game if we're up by multiple scores.
Yeah, and if you got to count on this game being close in the fourth quarter, unlike most Niner games. And what the Eagles do, we saw them do it to the Bills, is they wear down your pass rush. The Bills' pass rush dictating the outcome of the game for 3 quarters. Eagles look terrible, but the Eagles don't. Even when they're down 10 in the fourth quarter, the Niners have never won down 10 in the fourth quarter, right? 0-37. Eagles do it routinely, and part of the way that they do it is they stick to the run game, and it's their offensive line is so big and exhausting to combat that by the fourth quarter, you're exhausted. So with the Niners, they can't let that happen. They have to use their backup D-line. They have to rotate guys in the second quarter and the third quarter so that Nick Bosa and Chase Young can make an impact in the fourth quarter, because Von Miller and Leonard Floyd were not making an impact in the fourth quarter last week. So that means Javon Kinlaw, Kevin Givens, Randy Gregory, Cleveland Farrell. There are entire series where the Niners will put them out together, all 4, and say, hold it down. They're going to have to do that multiple times and do it well against the best offensive line in the league. That's just the reality of it. Otherwise, the Niners will have nothing left in the tank in the fourth quarter of that D-line.
And like Haley says, it's complementary football, right? Part of that is also the offense being able to, even if they're not scoring, go on the field and sustain drives. No 3 and outs where you're sending the defense right back out there right away. You got to be able to sustain drives, move the ball down the field, win the field position battle, and help keep that defensive line fresh.
Correct. Absolutely. Because the Niners win with their D-line. And it's like they have one of the best D-lines, if not the best D-line in the league, that front 4. So the toughest matchup for them is the team with the best offensive line. Naturally, this is it. This is it right here. So it's got to be more than just their front 4. It's got to be all 8 of them. Kinlaw's got to have a really good game. We saw what he did last year against the Eagles. He's having a much better year this year. He's way more healthy. Let's see that. That could be a big difference. That right there, him, big deal. Kinlaw.
Ezio Sanchez says, Grant, I heard your Debo's top MySpace friend.
Yeah, we get it. We have a rapport now. We joke around. It's fun.
You guys are best friends. We get it.
Yeah, we like to have fun.
I remember when the Patriots were undefeated. They played the Giants at the end of the regular season, and the Giants did not win the game, but it was close. And they said afterwards, like, hey, just the fact that even though we didn't win, you know, these were the big bad Patriots that were undefeated, that were kicking everybody's ass. And we went in there and we played with them. And that proved to us that, like, hey, they're not unbeatable. They're not, you know, in another league. Like, we're right there with them. How much do you think this game will have that same effect for the 49ers? Or do you think that they have to win it?
They don't have to win it. Because honestly, they could win the game. They could lose the game. Most likely, they're going to have to play this game again in the playoffs in Philly.
Right.
Most likely. So it's great. You know, it's a great trial run. It means a lot. It's the biggest game on the schedule in the regular season. I'm not trying to downplay it, but you don't win the Super Bowl winning this game. You're going to have to do it again, most likely. And it's good to get the experience. But I can't forget that the Niners beat the Rams 6 times in a row in the regular season, facing the NFC Championship game, and lost. So if they win this game in Philly, it doesn't necessarily mean the Niners are going to go to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl. It would make them the best team in the NFL right now. But we've said that about the Niners in early December before. They've been the best team in the NFL in early December before. They've established that. Like they have to clear the next hurdle. They are the Houston Rockets of the NFL, the Boston Celtics of the NFL. Like, you got to close the deal. You guys are old, like the 4th oldest team in the league. You've been running it back since I was in my 20s. Like, come on.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but you're not wrong. James Welsh, excuse me. Sorry, James says, on paper, the Niners are as good as the Eagles. My question is, are they as a team? The Eagles have won many different types of games. The 49ers have not. That's true, but also the Niners have been up by multiple scores in those games. That's why they don't have these come from behind victories. So that's a credit to them. Like you said last Wednesday when we did the show, for all the people saying Brock hasn't come back, that's because he's always winning by multiple scores. That's also really hard to do and really good.
Right. And I do want to point out, like, on paper, technically the Niners are better. Like, in terms of just yards, they have the 3rd ranked offense and the 5th ranked defense. And the Eagles, and just in terms of yards, have the 9th ranked offense and the 19th ranked defense. So, like, if you just go in terms of that, like, the Niners are clearly better. And there's a possibility they're just going to smoke the Eagles this weekend. But when you look really at the schedule, the Eagles have some really impressive wins against teams that are way better. I mean, they have much more impressive wins than the Niners have this year. The Niners blew out Dallas and Jacksonville. That's impressive.
And
very impressive.
They blew out Pittsburgh. I mean, the Eagles have blown out.
True, man. Yeah, they did. That's great. But, like, beating Buffalo and Kansas City the way they did in back-to-back games, to me, is just a whole different level. But again, if the Niners beat Philly this week in Philly, hey, that's serious. That's serious.
Yeah,
I'm picking Philly. So that's how I'm not going to be the guy after the game being like, yeah, but Zach Cunningham didn't play. So I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I'm not going to do that.
The Eagles they have blowout win. They whooped Miami too, 31-17. And you said Kansas City and Buffalo in back-to-back weeks, and they have beaten them. But like you said, on paper, like, the Eagles have only outscored their opponents this year by 64 points. The Niners have outscored their opponents this year by 140 points. Like, it's
there you go.
Crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why are the Niners favored? Boom, there. Like, boom, right there. That being said, like, I think the Cowboys have, like, an even better net point differential, which is crazy.
Yes. Dallas is at plus 162. That's the best.
And I don't think they've beaten a team with a winning record. Maybe they have, maybe one, maybe none.
I don't think they've beaten a team with more than 4 wins.
That's why I still feel like the Eagles are the team. Like, just because you can't necessarily trust that stat.
Yes.
I agree. The reason we're impressed by the Eagles is the way they've beaten certain teams.
What's impressed me is the Niners opened as 1.5 point favorites, and now it's up to 3. So people saw that.
There's injuries with Eagles, right? Like,
yeah,
Zach Cunningham, Fletcher Cox, more.
Dallas Goedert may or may not play. Lane Johnson, like you said, is banged up also. So, yeah, there's some definite injuries there. Official B&A Music, thank you very much. So both teams' fan bases think less of the opposing quarterbacks. Philly thinks Brock is Henry Rodengartner from in Rookie of the Year, and San Francisco thinks Jalen is John Tebow. Both quarterbacks are really good. This is likely not the last matchup.
It's a good comment.
We could see this matchup for quite a few years. I mean, this is going to be potentially the next, like, great Niners rivalry, right? It's probably this.
It would be really interesting to see Jalen Hurts try to run the Niners offense and Brock Purdy try to run the Eagles offense. Not sure either one could do it. I don't think Brock Purdy could do what they asked Jalen Hurts to do in the run game. And I'm not sure that Jalen Hurts could make all those anticipatory throws over the middle off play action after turning his back. But doesn't really matter. I do really enjoy watching both quarterbacks play. And I think that's important because most of the time I really don't enjoy watching whatever quarterback is on the field. Like, the NFL has a really mediocre at best product right now. Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. Most of the time it's like, who are these quarterbacks on the field? So at least it's 2 quarterbacks you like watching.
That
make plays.
Oh my God, that game was so bad.
How do you put this on television, NFL? Like, this is embarrassing. Sorry, Josh Dobbs, but what?
Yeah, he really struggled. James Welsh is back, says, respectfully, I don't think it is a credit to the Niners that they're always up by multiple scores. It's lopsided. A way to spin that argument is that they haven't been able to come back in a game. Well, should they intentionally go into the fourth quarter down so that they can come back and win, or should they just try and be up by a bunch of scores when they get there? Like, nobody wants to live where the Eagles live. The Eagles themselves don't want to go into the fourth quarter down 10 points, and they don't want to be down 3 points at the 2-minute warning and down 3 points in overtime, but they're able to function when they do. But they would prefer to be up like the 49ers usually are.
Yeah, the way I interpret this is the Eagles were a little bit better last year. They're 10-1. So the record says they're better than last year, but I don't know that they are. I think they were better last year because last year they would get up early on opponents. Like last year they had 2 different coordinators. Let's start there. They had Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. They had 3 head coaches on the team. They had great game plans. They were dialed in. Now they have a couple of young guys, Brian Johnson, Sean Desai, and it's like, how good are their game plans? How maybe the fact that they have to make adjustments and come from behind kind of speaks to the fact that those 2 aren't carrying their weight, and just the overall talent of the team has to take over in crunch time. Like maybe that's what's going on, because it doesn't seem like they're doing a whole lot of anything in the first half.
We got a couple more super chats I want to get to, but I thought this was funny because you mentioned Brian Johnson. I listened to his press conference this week because I was like, let me see, what the Eagles are saying about the Niners. And it just struck me how different the 2 different, the media covers the 2 different teams. He got one question about the 49ers defensive line. The whole rest of the press conference is, why isn't your offense doing more? Why isn't your offense good? It's like, damn, man, we're 10-1. We got the number 1 seed. But nope. All the questions were like, you got to be better. Why aren't you better? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, because you're going to lose to the Niners if you're not better. Like the offense looked more dynamic last year. It looked like they would always get a lead. They were the quickest starting team last year. And now like they're trying to figure it out deep into the third quarter. That doesn't speak well of their coordinators. Michael
Roos says Niners need to get the ball first, get the momentum. I think that why you giving me the hand wave? What was that?
That's what I said in the NFC Championship game, but that was different back then. That was when the Eagles were a quick starting team. The Niners won the toss and deferred, and I thought that was a mistake, even though they do it all the time. And what did they do? They gave up a touchdown on that first drive. Now, Kyle could have called a challenge, but he didn't. I'm just saying, you can't fall behind. I feel like whoever scores first is going to win this game.
I would not go that far, and I definitely wouldn't go as far.
I regretted saying it as soon as I said it.
With this stupid tweet that Lombardi had, that if Kyle had challenged the Devontae Smith catch on 4th down, that Brock Purdy wouldn't have gotten injured because Hassan Reddick wouldn't have rushed the passer as hard as he did if the Eagles weren't winning. That is the dumbest tweet I have ever seen from a member of the 49ers press corps, and that includes you.
Well, thank you. I'll take that because I put out some doozies. But yeah, that feels like 3 hypotheticals on top of each other passed off as a certainty. Like, okay, well, thank you for channeling an alternate universe where that happened and reporting back. Thank you. Thank you.
The amount of importance.
Reporting from an alternate universe where
facts over feelings.
Kyle Shanahan didn't choke and made the right decision on the spot. Brock Purdy, he threw for 800 yards. It's incredible. I'm the only person who saw it. Sorry, David. Love you, David.
But I do think that if the Eagles have a clunker of a first half like they have recently, the Niners have to pounce. It can't be a game where you're up by like 7 points or 4 points when the Eagles have done nothing in the first half. You have to cash in. If their offense is sputtering, you need touchdowns every single time. You have to, because if it's close, we know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I can't get the Bengals game out of my head. Okay. Let's go back to the Bengals game. It wasn't that long ago. And no, the Niners didn't have Chase Young, but they went up against the worst rushing team in the league, number 32. And all of a sudden, Joe Mixon and Joe Burrow were getting loose. Couldn't be stopped. Went for 130 plus. Joe Mixon and Joe Burrow. And now, just because they had a lead and committed to it a little bit, what's going to happen now? These guys are way better than those two. And even if the Niners get a 10-0 lead, a 14-0 lead, a 21-0 lead, they're not going to stop running the ball. You're not going to ever make them one-dimensional. So you're going to have to really, really stop the run. They're not going to give up on it. Can you? You couldn't against freaking Cincinnati. And you did against 3 teams that fell behind and don't have good offensive lines and aren't really committed to running the ball with Travis Etienne, Rashad White, and Zach Charbonnet. That's fine. But this is a whole different thing. You got to actually stop the run in this game. Can you do it?
And I'm going to get to this super chat in a second, but you said something that made me think of another point I wanted to make. Let's say the Niners are up 14-0, right? Let's say they get the ball first, they score, the Eagles go 3 and out, and the Niners score again. And the Niners get the ball back. And let's say it's 4th and 3 at the Eagles' 30-yard line. They cannot trot out Jake Moody for the field goal. They have to go for it to get that touchdown. The difference in being up 21-0 versus 17-0 is massive. I don't think it can be overstated in the game. You cannot, because Nick Sirianni is going to be aggressive on 4th down. He's going to try and steal yards and possessions and points. Mm-hmm. I think Kyle's going to have to go a little bit outside his comfort zone in this game. And I think it'll be very interesting if he does do that, especially early. Maybe that's him sort of recognizing the importance of that.
Sure. But that also depends on his trust and confidence level in Brock Purdy at that particular time and how much it's raining. I don't know. People are saying it's not going to be raining at that time. We'll see. We'll see. But like 4th and 3 going for it. Yeah. In a dome with Brock Purdy has a lead. Absolutely. You got all the weapons. You got great play designs. Why not trust him? He can execute, but we'll see how he does. We'll see how Kyle feels.
Killamig 831 says Eagles are losing their next 3 games. They're beat up after that last game. They also got to fly to Seattle and Dallas. They're going to be drained. You could say that,
they're not going to lose to Seattle.
Well, no. I think you could also say, look at the 2 games they just played. I didn't think they would be able to win both of those games. I would have thought they might have lost one of those games, but they keep pulling the damn thing out. So I'm not agreeing with you on that one, Killamig.
I mean, they're getting Lane Johnson. They just won they beat the Bills without Lane Johnson. That's impressive to me. Getting him back, that offensive line is the driving force of their team. People don't really talk about it very much. It's always Jalen Hurts and the D line, but it's the O line. It's the O line. Who do they got? They got the Niners, Cowboys, Seahawks, Giants, Cardinals, Giants. Okay. So they're going to end the season with like 3 bye weeks. Giants, Cardinals, Giants. Cool. So yeah, I mean, they might lose some games. We'll see. They could lose to the Niners. They could lose to Dallas. They could lose back-to-back games and finish the season with 3 losses. And who knows? Maybe the Niners will run the table. It's possible. It's absolutely possible.
We have seen it before.
Yeah.
Let's get to this comment from Jesus. Says, Grant, if Brock does not look so good and the 49ers still find a way to win, will you still give the team its flowers?
No, never. I'll never give team flowers. Are you kidding? Yeah, if they win the game, the way I think about it is the only time I can sort of be like, critical after a win is if I picked them to win. I'm like, well, okay, I saw this coming. I knew they were going to win, and they did win. But like, if I pick them to lose and they win, pretty weak to come out after and be like, well, it wasn't that impressive. Like, yeah, it would be really impressive to go into Philly and beat them, considering what happened in the NFC Championship game. Just getting Brock through the game. Getting one quarterback through the game would be really impressive for the Niners in this game.
Maybe we need to lower our expectations.
Yeah.
Tastes Like Chicken says Niners Super Bowl this Sunday.
Essentially.
If the Eagles had lost last week, I would agree with you, because then this game would be for the number 1 seed. But even if the Niners win this game, at the end of the day, the Eagles are still ahead of them in the conference.
But it has to do with how they look at themselves, right? They beat the Eagles. They can say we're the 2 seed, but we're the best team. And if we face this team in the playoffs, we're going to beat them no matter where we face them. If they lose, how can they tell themselves that? It's like we lost an NFC Championship game. We went back. We talked all that crap. We said it was a fluke. We said we were going to win. We didn't win. We really didn't win again. And this time Brock was healthy. Like, we have no excuse. Like, that would be devastating. Devastating.
But I'm not going to make any pronouncements after this game. Like, if the Niners win, they'll definitely beat the Eagles in the playoffs, or vice versa. To me, like, and maybe the Niners.
I'm just talking about their self-esteem.
Yeah. Okay.
How they look at themselves in the mirror. If they beat the Eagles, I mean, they're back on top of the world, top of the world. But if they lose to the Eagles, I just don't see how they look at themselves as the juggernaut they think they are.
Randall says, wow, so Lane Johnson matters, huh? Trent Williams, no big deal when he was out those 3 games. Interesting.
Who said that wasn't a big deal? Emmanuel Acho literally put Trent Williams
I know. I
in the
saw that.
MVP discussion. Yeah, it's a big deal. But I'm just saying, like, these are supposed to be the two best teams in the league. Lane Johnson's one of their best players. So, yeah, he matters. The Niners, yeah, I mean, they lost some games without Trent Williams, and maybe that's the asterisk, but they lost to teams that, like, shouldn't have been on their level.
No. Yeah, the Vikings.
Minnesota.
That I know Cleveland's defense is really good, but it was still PJ Walker. Although PJ Walker had a terrible game. So,
I mean, not having Trent Williams isn't the reason that the Bengals scored 31.
I'll say this too. I don't care if Lane Johnson plays. Like, Nick Bosa's got to have a couple sacks in this game. Not just pressures. He's got to have sacks. I don't care if it's Lane Johnson. I don't care who he's going against. You need your stars to play like stars. I don't want to hear that excuse. Like, oh, well, Lane Johnson's really good too. Tough. You're paying Nick Bosa because he's supposed to be good against anybody, and especially good against other good players. So I got to see it from Bosa. I got to see it from Warner.
That's my thing with Bosa too. Like, I always feel like he gets to go against a backup offensive tackle because someone's hurt, and everyone says, "Oh man, Bosa's gonna eat this week." Like, man, is that the only time he eats? He should be eating every week, no matter who he's going against. He's the best. He's the highest paid defensive player ever. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, Nick, eat every week.
And to be fair, since the bye week, he has done it. 5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits since the bye week. So he's been doing it. And
they were pacing themselves, Rob. It's clear.
He said on KBR yesterday that Chase Young has really helped. Like, he definitely said the addition to Chase Young has helped. He also said Chase is still sort of learning the system, and that he's, he's coming along, but he needs a couple more weeks to totally get it, which I thought was really interesting, because it's like, damn, man, you're basically just a pass rusher. There must be more to it that I don't realize.
Right. Like, defending the run is all about what gap you're in and your leverage and exactly what technique they want you to play with. And it's different from team to team. And rushing the quarterback is much more straightforward. Beat the guy in front of you, sack the quarterback. Right. Or if it's a stunt, like, go to the, I feel like learning all the different run fits takes more time. And if you get that wrong, you give up big plays. So they don't mess around with that.
Matthew Sanders says, if Philly goes to Dallas off a loss, there will be blood.
Yeah, I mean, again, Philly has won 27 in the last 29. The idea that they're going to lose 2 in a row, maybe, possible. I don't think they will, but maybe they will.
Hey, the 49ers lost 3 in a row after winning, 16 straight? So it
could happen.
You can't rule it out for sure. I'm trying to check the chat here for any interesting comments. Here's Naughty L says, he just said Warner like he isn't the most consistent on the team. Warner is really good, but I'm talking impact plays, not just like making tackles. I'm talking about forced fumbles. I'm talking about interceptions, stuff like that. He has done a much better job this year of doing that, to his credit, but this is when they need him more. Like, he had a dropped interception the other week. Like, you got to hang on to that in this game. This is a game where the game could swing on whether or not you hang on to that interception. Because if you drop it, the Eagles get another chance, and who knows what happens, right? You got to hang on to those. The Niners have dropped a lot of interceptions. I think they've dropped multiple picks the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Also, like, I feel like Warner is the kind of guy who shuts down Kyle Shanahan's scheme, because Kyle Shanahan's scheme and Sean McVay, and it's all about play action, getting the linebackers to draw up for the run and then throwing above their head over the middle. That's what they do. And it's really hard to do that to Fred Warner, who's 6'3" and has great instincts and knows what he's looking at. But that's not really what the Eagles do. They don't really, they're not under center. They're not playing play action like that. They throw outside. Jalen Hurts has a big arm. He throws deep. Now, a lot of times his deep balls just land out of bounds, which I don't know. I hate that stuff. But he will take shots down the sideline that Purdy won't necessarily take, because there's a different physical skill set there. So the issue with the Niners isn't necessarily, like, I don't know how big of an impact Warner's going to make as in coverage. This is more like Travarius Ward and Ambry Thomas. Can you guys cover for 3 or 4 seconds against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith? That's the game to me, because the offensive line gives Hurts the time. He gives himself the time with the legs. He's awfully patient with the ball. And the last few weeks, Ward and Thomas are just jumping routes, really benefiting from a great pass rush. They're going to be in coverage for a long time in this game. What's it going to look like?
I think that Warner will have a much bigger impact in coverage if Dallas Goedert plays. We still don't know if he's going to play, because obviously, Warner's going to handle the tight end a lot of the time. Right. I said this week, and I wonder if you agree. Jalen Hurts reminds me of young Russell Wilson. Like, might not necessarily have the best game early, can clearly extend plays with
Yeah.
his legs, but
Mhm.
also like has this mentally, this iron will of like, no matter what is happening in the game, I'm going to make a play. I'm going to get it done. And I want to. I want the ball in my hands. That is like the worst mentality that I want in my opposing quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. It's just I can't get over the size difference. I know it's obvious, but with Russell Wilson, yes, they're very similar. I can totally see it. Deep ball, inconsistent, clutch. But Wilson had all that quickness. Jalen Hurts is just so freaking powerful. I've never seen anything like it. And I know people say Tim Tebow, Josh Allen, Cam Newton. Just he is such a good runner, and he runs like a running back. He holds the ball like a running back. He's just it's the same amount of rushing touchdowns as McCaffrey. That's incredible. He's like a fullback. He's like Mike Allstott playing quarterback.
He's
I don't know.
definitely troubling. That's for sure. Before we get out of here, Jason Lutz says, who are the X factors of the game, offense and defense?
Okay. Who you got?
I will take McCaffrey on offense because, like, remember that touchdown he had that tied the NFC Championship game last year? Like, he has no business scoring on that play. No business scoring on the play, but he's so damn good that he just breaks 3 tackles and runs it in. And all of a sudden, like, the game is tied with the 49ers backup quarterback where they can barely complete a pass. He is such a get out of jail free card. And I think he's going to have to be because I don't know that Kyle's going to be able to totally out scheme Philadelphia. And I don't know that everybody's going to be able to hold up all their blocks perfectly all the time. You're just going to need McCaffrey to make 6 guys miss some of the time. And I think that whether or not the Niners win comes down to how much he can do that.
It's a good one. On defense, Ambry Thomas, he's played 3 good games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be going against Devontae Smith. They faced each other in college in 2019, and Ambry actually held him in check, like 3 catches for 50 yards. So that was 4 years ago. But it's going to be interesting. Ambry should feel confident. And if he holds his own against Devontae Smith and Travarius Ward holds his own against A.J. Brown, Niners win. So X factor is, you could go with their best player like Rob did on offense, great. Or you go with their perceived weakest link. And he has not been a weak link the last 3 games. He's going to get tested big time in this game, but he's had this test before. It'll be interesting.
It's crazy to me that, like, on a team with Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and Chase Young and Javon Hargrave, X factor is Ambry Thomas. But I agree with you. Like, absolutely. He has made such a difference since coming in. 1, just getting Isaiah Oliver off the field. Obviously, that's a benefit. But 2, like, he's held it down. Like you said, he did do it. And he's got to continue to do it. And I'm sure, like you said, the Eagles are going to test him. It is going to be so much fun to watch this game. I absolutely cannot wait. Like and subscribe to both YouTube channels, please. The Gold Standard Network YouTube channel and Grant Cohn's YouTube channel. I will be doing an instant reaction show immediately after the game. I know you're going to be doing an instant reaction show as well. This isn't the Super Bowl, but I mean, this game is so big. I cannot imagine the reaction that's going to be there after the game.
I got another X factor. I'm still going through this. Like, forget Ambry for a second. Travarius Ward, the number 1 corner. Because what happened last week was Steve Wilks decided, hey, Travarius, we're going to have you shadow DK Metcalf. He's not going to be in the slot. He'll be on the left. He'll be in the right. We want you covering him no matter where he is. And that worked out. That was smart. You don't, because what if he didn't do that, the Seahawks could have went 21 personnel, 2 wide receivers, and put DK against Diamador Lenore, who's 5'10". That's not fair to Diamador Lenore. You don't want you don't want the other team dictating that matchup. And the Eagles can do the same thing this week. If Ward isn't following A.J. Brown, they could put A.J. Brown in a 2 wide receiver set and put him up against Diamador Lenore, and that's a physical mismatch. So I'd like to see Steve Wilks do the same thing this week. Travarius, you are shadowing A.J. Brown no matter where he goes because he's not going to be in the slot. He'll be outside left, outside right. That's where Travarius needs to go. You cannot let the Eagles dictate that matchup, put him on a 5'10" cornerback. Can't happen.
And that's why you signed Travarius Ward. You signed him to be able to take the other team's best wide receiver. And he was awesome last week. He was awesome. And they absolutely need it again this week. Before we go, I did want to get to this comment from Maestro Splinter says, Stats, you going to preview the game with BLG, Go Birds? Yes, I am. BLG is Brandon Lee Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation, the SB Nation Eagles community, who I used to work with when I was there. He's going to join us tomorrow, Levin and I. He'll be on live with us. So we are going to break down that game. Definitely want to check that out. He is, if you want information on the Eagles, go to Brandon. He's not going to give you hot takes. He's pretty objective when it comes to the Birds. So definitely check that out. But I did want to answer that question. Grant, I hope you have a lovely rest of your Wednesday. What do you have going on the rest of the day?
Well, I'm going to be driving down to Santa Clara right now. Kyle talks in an hour and a half. It's about a 45-minute commute. I'll make it. And then I'll go into the locker room. I'll talk to the players. I'll come home. I will take out the trash, clean up around the house, go out with Jesse. It's a full day, baby. It's a full day.
So are you going to ask Kyle the question about practicing for the rain?
Yeah. And then everyone's going to say that I didn't ask it right and I was a jerk about it, but everyone's going to run with it. I already know, but it's okay. I'll take it. It's the question you want asked, right? No one else is going to ask the freaking question. And then when I ask it, Kyle's not going to like it. And everyone's going, why is Grant asking that? Because you wanted to know.
There's going to be 6 questions about last year's game, which is going to be annoying as all hell. Can you take anything from
How did you phrase the question again? How did you phrase it? I like your question.
Are you doing anything different to prepare for the rain this week?
Man, he's going to give me he's going to answer that question with a question, man. You know it.
Or
that's my prediction.
No. He'll give you the one-word response. But even that, I think, is telling.
That's an interesting response. I don't think he's going to do that because that's not a good response. He's going to say, what should I do? What would you do? And I'm going to be like, I don't know, man.
You should respond with a question to him. Are you saying there's nothing you can do? Just keep
and then just keep going back and forth with like these questions.
Answer his question with a question, no matter what he says.
Okay, here we go. I'm taking one for the team, guys, but just don't be mad at me. I'm telling you now, I'm going to do it. I'm using his question. It's Rob's fault. It's all your fault.
Okay,
I didn't want to do it.
I'll take the blame on this one.
Kyle, if you're watching the show right now, be prepared. It's coming. Okay,
right?
You know it's coming.
He's going to get so snarky. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Grant, thank you very much.
Thank you.